This is section 2.4. It's all about applications, and applications are just word problems. So what you're going to have to be able to do is, can you take the word problem, figure out exactly what it's asking, and then since this is a right triangle trig chapter, every single problem is going to involve a right triangle somehow, some way. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through this. So as you read through these word problems, I think I have 4 or 5 of them here in these notes. We have a flagpole that's 75 feet tall. Okay, so I kind of have this set up here as your flagpole with a nice little flag on top. And it casts a shadow of 43 feet long. So I have a 75-foot tall flagpole. So this is going to be, you got to take this literally here. And casts a shadow of 43 feet. So think about a shadow with the sun. Where's the shadow at? That's lying on the ground. So 43 feet, that means the sun obviously needs to be over here. So that's my handy dandy little sun for you. I'm sure y'all can make fun of me about that tomorrow. And the shadow's 43 feet on the ground, and we want to find the angle of elevation of the sun from the tip of the shadow. So here's my tip of the shadow. Angle of elevation is from the ground up. So basically, I need to find that angle. So what you need to do now is think SOHCAHTOA, and what 2 sides are we given from that angle. Now remember, we have opposites, adjacents, and hypotenuse. This is the hypotenuse. I don't know anything about it, so I have the opposite side and the adjacent side. From SOHCAHTOA, actually I'm just going to write TOA because I have the opposite and the adjacent, so that means I want to use tangent. So tangent of my angle equals the opposite, which is 75, over the adjacent, which is 43. And now what I can do to find my angle, you always have to, in order to find an angle, you have to find the inverse, or use the inverse. So I'm going to say the tangent inverse of this fraction. So on your calculator in degree mode, if you do this, you should get theta equals 60.2 degrees. Now you must read the question. How do they want the answer? To the nearest 10 minutes. If I'm tricky, or the book is tricky with that, you now need to change your decimal into minutes. So what do we have? 0.2 times 60 is going to be 12 minutes. But it says to the nearest 10 minutes. So the nearest full 10 would be just 10 minutes. So the actual answer would be 60 degrees and 10 minutes if you actually round that. Okay? So that's how you can set up your picture. You can draw a flagpole, the shadows on the ground, and then you just need to make the connection of what is angle of elevation. It's just the angle from the ground up to that directional line to the sun. Okay? How about another one? If Amanda climbs a 213 meters up the side of a pyramid. So once I read that, I'm going to draw myself a pyramid. Now, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. All I know is that if somebody's climbing up the side of a pyramid, this length right here is going to be the 213 meters. Okay? She finds the angle of depression to her starting point. Alright, we got to talk about what angle of depression is. So we have the person standing on top of the pyramid. Okay? Angle of depression, we're going to imagine that there is a line that is parallel to the bottom of the pyramid. Okay? Angle of depression is from the top, or your eyesight, back down, because it's depression. You're going down, looking towards the bottom of the pyramid. This angle right here is the 52.6 degrees. Okay? And what we need to figure out then is how high above the ground is she? So now what we got to think about, if we actually could go right through that pyramid to the ground, that makes a right angle down there. I want to find that distance. Okay, so how can I use this side and use my hypotenuse side? I need an angle inside my pyramid. So I'm wondering if we can get this angle. So hopefully you guys are thinking, if this line is parallel, that means this has to be a 90-degree angle. In all of these problems, you have to figure out where is that 90-degree angle. And since the 90 degree is from this made-up kind of parallel line I have to my straight up and down line, this other angle inside the triangle must be 37.4 degrees, because these two angles have to add up to 90. So you need to kind of make that adjustment and that realization. Once you do that, this problem becomes really simple. I have a right angle. Okay, what 2 sides am I given? Now I'm not given the opposite side. I don't know anything about the opposite. So I'm looking for the adjacent. I am given the hypotenuse. So adjacent, hypotenuse. What trig function do I have? It's cosine. So I'm going to say cosine of my angle equals the adjacent, which is just x, over the hypotenuse, which is 213. And now you use simple algebra to solve. How do I get x by itself? Multiply 213 to both sides, and then use your calculator to simply just multiply those together. So x will then end up equaling 169.21 meters, and you need to label all word problems if I give you a label for the distance. Okay, so simply being able to realize angle of depression, there is a parallel line and depression looks down. Okay, we have to make the connection that this is a 90-degree angle, so what's left over is 37.4, and that allows us to be in this right triangle that involves the height above the ground and the hypotenuse, which was the distance the girl traveled, and then we use cosine and solve. Okay? Another way that we can be given information is what we call a bearing. So those of you that are, I don't want to be mean, but directionally challenged, we're going to practice, okay? So north, south, east, and west. Some of you like using it, some of you don't. I know my wife absolutely hates it. She can't stand saying north, south, east, and west. But enough on that. How this works is the first thing that you're going to be given is either north or south. Basically, is your directional going north, or is it kind of facing south? And that's the first letter that'll be designated. So on this first one, I am facing north. And then it says how many degrees from north am I going? 40 degrees. Which direction? Due east. Because remember, this is north, south, west, east. Okay? So north and south. So north, 40 degrees. East is the bearing. That's what I call a bearing. Okay? Then this one. Also, I'm starting north, but this time I'm going 65 degrees. In what direction? I'm going northwest. So north 65 degrees west. This one, if the arrow is going south, you must start from the south. So now I'm going to say south. How many degrees? 70 degrees. Which direction? East. So we should be going southeast. This one's northwest. That one's northeast. And hopefully by now you kind of get the idea of what's happening. Once again here, I'm going to start on the south side, and I'm going to move 20 degrees in the west direction because I'm going southwest on that particular problem. Okay? Now, where are these going to come up? Okay, we're going to involve boats or airplanes is where these are going to show up most often. So what you're going to want to do on any of these problems in which you see a bearing, you're going to make your compass or your, I call it crosshairs of a gun if you look through a scope or anything like that. Okay? Boat travels on a course bearing of north 52 degrees 40 minutes east. So all that means is I'm starting due north. Okay? And I'm going 52 degrees, which is over halfway, and 40 minutes, okay, in that direction. Alright? And what we want to find is what? How many miles north and how many miles east has the boat traveled when it gets to this spot? How many miles north? How many miles east? Here's north. Here's your east. Notice how we just made a right triangle. And I know this angle inside would be 52 degrees 40 minutes. What's 40 minutes of an hour? If I go 40 divided by 60, that's going to be 0.67. So I could say 52.67 degrees. Why do I want that decimal? Now I can figure out exactly what trig functions I want and not mess with it. So you're going to want decimals to use your calculator. How far did that boat travel? Remember, your boat now is not going north and then east. Your boat is taking a straight course of 238 miles. So now basically we have to solve two questions. It says how many miles north, how many miles east. So you got to pick one to do first. Let's pick north first. So if I use my angle that's given, and I want north, that's going to be the adjacent side, and I'm given the hypotenuse, adjacent, hypotenuse, I'm going to use cosine. So cosine of my 52.67 degree angle equals n over 238. To solve, you just multiply 238 to both sides, and then we will end up getting that n equals 144.32 miles. So we travel 144 miles north. And then to do the east side, using that same angle, I want the east, which is the opposite. I have the hypotenuse. Use the one that's given, not the one that you just found in case you did something wrong. And I have OH that I need, so that's part of the SO and the SOHCAHTOA. So I'm going to say sine of 52.67 equals east over 238. And then once again, you multiply 238 to both sides, and you'll end up getting that east equals 189.25 miles. So then you could plug them in on this. Now, if this is 52 degrees, that means this guy is actually what? 37 some odd degrees. So the east side should be longer because this angle across from it's larger than the 37. And is that the case? I did travel farther east than I did north. My triangle makes sense to me, so I can be semi to relatively to really confident that that is the answer. Okay? The last problem. So it says Sean is camped 12 miles due north of where Drew is camped. Okay, there's no real good way to do this, so let's just pick a spot. Drew. I'm going to pick, there's Drew. Okay? And it says Sean is camped 12 miles due north. Which direction's north? Straight up. So I'm going to say this is Sean. And I know that this side right here is 12 miles. Okay? What else do I know? It says if Harry is camped 4.6 miles due east of Drew. Okay, here's Drew. Where's due east? Straight to the right. 4.6 miles. Alright, this is Harry's spot. And then it says, what is the bearing of Sean's camp from Harry's camp? So now if you read that, what is the bearing? That means you need an angle. So I should instantly know, okay, I'm going to take an inverse at some point in this problem. And how am I going to go about doing that? Now from Harry, it says of Sean's camp from Harry. So that means I'm going to start from Harry and go to Sean. Okay, I don't care about the distance. I want to know the bearing. So what am I actually looking for? Notice how I put in those kind of like a compass, a crosshair here. I know that this thing's even. I need to find this angle because from Harry to Sean, I know I'm traveling northwest. So instantly I know it's going to be north, some degree west. What we need to figure out is how to find this angle in here when I don't know anything about really anything here. Well, since you know this side and this is a right triangle, could we find the pink angle instead, which then corresponds to your 90-degree angle in here, and just see what's left over? So that's what I would probably do first, at least. That'd be my opinion anyway. And so what you want to do, take the tangent, because now I have the opposite and the adjacent. If you take the tangent inverse, I'm jumping ahead. Let's rewrite this so I don't lose anybody. So let's go tangent theta equals 12 over 4.6. Okay? Now to find that angle, theta will equal the tangent inverse of that fraction. Okay? And if you take the tangent inverse of 12 divided by 4.6, you should get 61.03 degrees. Now that's not your answer, because that's this angle in here. Now if that's 61.03 degrees, I lied, not 61, 69.03 degrees. I apologize. I'm doing this a little bit different on the fly here. This is actually 69.03. You should check me on that to make sure. But I know the answer in the end will be, if this is 69, this whole thing needs to be 90. Okay? So to find this angle for my bearing north, how many degrees west? 90 minus 69.03 will be 20.97 degrees. So my bearing will be north 20.97 degrees west. So that's a problem in which you actually have to find the angle. So we'll have a variety of problems in this homework step that we'll do here in class. We're going to work on them via whiteboards, on your homework and paper, and we will do the best that we can. So if you feel frustrated, please don't give up. We will definitely have plenty of time to help you out. So I hope you have a wonderful day.